Welcome back to Lords of Shadow.
Dark dungeon?
Who is this strange girl? Surely she could not have survived alone in this hellhole. Gabriel follows her deep into the depths of the city. I wonder where she is leading him. It is strange. I hear no words, and yet it seems Gabriel is communicating with her in some way. Something tells me she has a part to play in all of this.
She's the victim child that will sacrifice to get his wife back.
Well, before any of that happens, let's do some platforming first.
Nice little chill-out platforming section after the crap the previous level puts you through.
Yeah, that was a bit of a crappy maze level.
It's not bad, it's just a slog.
Yeah. Also, I don't like the signposting in this section. I suppose they were thinking like the waterfall might be able to direct you to the right place, but when everything else is so blatantly pointed out for you, I don't know.
At least it's pretty.
Yes. No denying that. This is also the first time that it really expects you to do some really complicated things with the grappling.
Relaxing, satisfying platform mechanics. It's a water level. It's very cool.
Well, it's going to turn into a cave level pretty soon.
Uh-oh.
I kind of like this scroll. So they sent out this this escort party ahead, and one guy had a shadow gem. Apparently, shadow gems in the lore kind of corrupt you and screw with your mind. But this guy feels lonely and he wishes his friends were back. Damn it, Stefano.
On the upside, he hasn't discovered that pressing A makes him jump yet.
No.
Aye. We come bearing granola, hipster girl.
Still not talking, huh? Come on, use your big girl words.
Something special about that one. She stuck the landing from like 40 feet back.
Yeah.
Oh, fetch quest.
Yeah, she was a shoo-in for the garden gymnastics squad. Well, we have 2 keys. There is no alternate path here. There's a completely linear path to get these 2 keys, unfortunately.
Well, it's living up to the Dark Dungeon name.
I really like this scroll. Because it shows gremlins that we're going to be meeting later, and saying how their shit is actually really useful for all of the lighting up the torches that we've been seeing around here.
Oh my god.
They also mentioned something called a dark crystal. I don't know what's up with that. So these are gremlins. Does this mean that their torches are also powered by their shit? I hope it does. So here I'm using the shadow magic to power my daggers. I was actually a little incorrect earlier. Light magic does not do anything to daggers, but shadow magic increases damage. And in fact, there are different weaknesses. There are different weakness properties to shadow magic daggers versus regular daggers.
So it keeps you juggling your magic around.
Yep. Also, if you grab a gremlin, he just turns into a living bomb. You can either wait for him to run around until he explodes, or you could just whack him with the combat cross and blow him up instantly. I kind of like that.
So when you perforate their colons, they become a firebomb.
They become a literal pain in the ass, yes.
Love it.
Oh, I guess that was Stefano. He had a shadow magic gem on him.
Stefano, I will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Ugh, it smells like gremlin. Ugh.
Ugh.
Okay, so here's something I haven't really shown off until now. It will become clear once we investigate this door and trigger the next fight. There are actually multiple throw animations for enemies, and it depends on whether or not you stand still when you're pressing the button or tilt the analog stick when you press the QTE. And the throws have different properties. So with the gremlins, for instance, we can throw the gremlin in a direction determined by the analog stick, and if he runs into another enemy, he does extra damage. So basically, yeah, it takes that bomb property from before, and plays around with it a little bit. Whereas before, the neutral throw, as I call it, he'll just run around and just run around on his own until he explodes. Whereas you can make a more precision bomb with the tilt throw. I'm treating this like it's Smash Brothers or something. Yeah, Gabriel's L tilt game is very very good.
Well, once he understands wave dashing, it's all over.
I actually put the spider into its stun status with the tilt throw. I thought that was pretty cool.
Really satisfying combat in this.
What a tiny little hole the spider makes in the door.
Well, Charlotte, you ain't coming with.
At least I taught a pig how to read and write.
Avenge me, Wilbur!
And now he found the other room. The trial in this area, which I lost the footage for, but it's not really a big deal because this trial's pretty boring, is just to complete the level without using any grab attacks on the gremlins. It's like the chapter 2 has it either really bad, boring trials or really incredibly difficult ones. Either or. Not much room in the middle. But we'll get to those in video 8.
I just want to say that last night's death was lazy. The health fountain was right there.
Yeah. Well, he was a pro gamer. He refused to use the health fonts. Look what happened to him. He died. So this next collectible is actually pretty sneaky. But in a good way, not like that other stupid collectible from last time. I actually misjudged the perspective on this angle here. I thought I could drop down for that, but it was just off. You actually have to jump over to the other platform here, and then drop down. Almost everyone misses this one on their first playthrough.
Aha.
Yeah, I definitely missed that one. I had to use a guide for that. So this next fight coming up is kind of weird. It's meant to be an unwinnable fight that you eventually get saved from in a cutscene, but the game isn't really built to handle that kind of fight. So, I have to sort of manipulate it to make sure it actually goes through. So I'm like kiting these gremlins over so that I can kill as many as possible using shadow magic, and then just kind of hope it goes my way.
Fingers crossed.
You saw the XP number change as I grappled over, and that's because it took a couple of takes to get this right, because I kept dying. Because this fight is actually pretty hard. Just because it's not scripted very well.
Oh, you're a biggin.
Stop!
In the name of love.
I am Groot.
Did you see the power that resides within those crystals?
If you collect 25 of them, you can beat Cortex.
Useful in combat. You can find crystal shards scattered all over the place.
The reverb on her voice is so lazy. Like, it's the exact same reverb effect that I have on my $90 Phantom Power that I use for my XLR microphone.
I can also read minds.
Who are you?
My name is Claudia, and he is my protector. He looks after me. In return, I catch...
He's the
evil
Black Knight
souls
Golem, by the way.
their energy.
Aha.
But there's something different about you. You seem
Almost like you're some sort of player character.
I'm relieved to hear it.
She is adorable.
It's okay. Let me read your thoughts.
Please don't.
My mother was an Asari.
No.
What is it? What's wrong?
It's just your skin. You haven't shaved in 3 months.
Here to kill the Lords of Shadow and take their power. You mean to save us all and bring the one you love back?
And for some reason, that's horrible.
I was concerned she was going to show his thoughts.
I'm not afraid. We are coming with you. You won't make it on your own.
Is it just me, or her animation's really exaggerated,
do this alone.
as if to
I
make
know
up for the lack of lip movement?
You don't. You need me.
They are extremely exaggerated. You are not wrong.
Very well.
Somehow Helen Keller and Clank just didn't focus test as well.
Oh, God. How did I kill 40 gremlins in that level? I don't remember there being that many. Maybe... Oh, yeah, I counted the ones from the alternate takes where I died.
Fate has played its hand, and now the die is set. I knew this child would play her part somehow, and it seems Gabriel has real help at last. It bodes well for our quest. The golem that protects the girl has something that could prove very useful in the end, something unforeseen.
Pat, stop
I see
spoiling
your
it.
destiny before me, and it is terrible indeed. And yet I have trust that all will be as I have hoped.
You ready for another plot dump?
Oh, yeah.
For thousands of years, this city overflowed with life. It was a sanctuary of
Here,
magic.
let me take out my PowerPoint of concept art that I provided.
These people were the ones that created the crystals, which you've already seen.
Next slide, please.
Protection.
Sorry, we kind of ran out of time to make an FMV out of this. This'll do.
That is, until the lichens came.
Don't get me wrong, it is lovely.
It's changed. Trolls, goblins, gremlins, creatures of
Lions, tigers, and bears.
endlessly.
Oh my.
Most fled. Others used their remaining powers to create huge titans to fight against the invaders. The battle lasted centuries.
Turns out this was also a mistake. The Titans unionized and joined the Lycans.
Those that did not die in battle were captured and devoured. My father was one of the last. He hid me. He created the Black Knight to be my protector. We have been running ever since.
The Black Knight is extremely useful. No matter how many of his limbs he chops off, he still keeps fighting.
Until even they were defeated.
Well, at that size, it's really just a flesh wound.
Behind those doors awaits the last of those titans.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. That at some point in the DLC, there's going to be an extremely out-of-place Holy Grail reference.
The only way to reach the sanctuary of the
Like,
Dark Lords.
there are points in the game where I could see where the game takes a more comic tone, where they could have put a Holy Grail reference, but they chose like the worst place to put it.
To find 4 shards to create the whole crystal. We will wait for you here while you look for them.
We don't have time to lose, Gabriel. Find the areas where crystal shards grow.
You know, this really is your fault, Claudia. You wasted a crystal against one mini-boss that we've already taken on by ourselves. Also, if you do a neutral jump while standing right against the golem, for some reason it pushes you back. And I became absolutely fascinated with this for a couple of seconds.
Interesting.
So this level is pretty universally hated. I dislike it, but I don't really hate it. I tolerate it. Because you have to go around and find the 4 pieces of the crystal. The Dark Crystal, I mean, it's obviously becomes a sub-weapon. And if you have a complete crystal already, you can end the level instantly. But we don't, so we have to do it the hard way.
Here, puppers!
I was trying to see if I could get a parry out of him, but no, he was not cooperating. So, this is why people don't like this level.
Go in search of the areas where the crystal shards grow. We will wait for you here.
Claudia chimes in constantly. So, just for the sake of making this level a little tolerable, I am going to turn off voice volume. Just for this level. Because otherwise, Claudia will constantly chatter and remind you to get the other crystal shards, even when you're busy fighting enemies and you can't really do anything about it.
I can finally tick shut up that mute kid off of my bucket list. Never thought I was going to get that.
Not something you can do every day. There are a couple of other levels where I'll be doing that, but actually I can only think of one off the top of my head where I would do that. But it's really annoying. One level in, I think, Chapter 10. Just off the top of my head, but yeah, it's not something that happens very frequently, thankfully. So the game is also introducing you not just to the idea of the dark crystals, but also of the refill supplies, kind of like the refill bags, but instead it only gives you a quarter of the crystal, because the dark crystal is extremely powerful, as we saw in that earlier cutscene.
So you gotta earn that power.
Yeah, they do randomly drop, but not in this level. Just to make it a little more scripted. But once we actually get the Dark Crystal for real, enemies will start dropping it, or dropping quarters. That parry is just so satisfying when you can nail it. It's all in the sound design.
You know, I will say this. They really did a phenomenal job with the combat audio, because it is bassy.
Yeah. Like, there are certainly points where I think it may get a little too far. Like, there's a lot of clipping that I had to fix, but certainly, yeah, it does a great job of You know, if you're playing this in 5.1, it will give your subwoofer a workout. Now, imagine Claudia is actually saying all this in that reverb.
Hey, remember, we still need 3 more crystals.
Now we need 2 more.
2 more.
Okay, you had 3, now it's 2. We're getting another upgrade. We gotta come back to this. And also, while we're up here, there's another shadow magic gem, as well as a refill for our daggers. I was deliberately using a lot of daggers in that fight because I knew there was another refill bag up here. And it always refills, no matter how much of an upgrade you get. It will always refill you completely, which is nice. So this bit of platforming up here is a little weird. It kind of drops you down. The way it's kind of unexpected. It's a little bit weird.
Yeah, that surface isn't well telegraphed at all.
I think that surface ended up being a little glitchy, and rather than, you know, bug fix it properly, they just sort of patched it and called it a day.
Remember, we still need 2 more crystal shards.
So a few videos ago, I mentioned that there was one particular arena with 3 greater lycanthropes. This is it.
Oh no!
They only start you with 1. As 2 other buddies are coming in a little bit. But when you're fighting it normally, it's challenging, but not too bad. But it's this area where it's the best place to get a certain trial later on, and that's what it just becomes one of the worst trials in the early game. Like, there are worse trials later on, but when you're trying to do trials early, it just becomes terrible. And you'll see once we get to video 8, because that's where all of the Chapter 2 trials are. Well, almost all of them. You'll see what I mean later.
They seem to corner you pretty fast.
Yeah. Basically, the only bit of respite you can get is during these finishing moves, because that's the only time you're actually invincible.
Nice of them to back off for it, too.
Yeah. I think that was a bit of an AI design choice there. Also, there's that uppercut move. They don't really do that often, but it can hurt. Yeah, Claudia will annoy you in the middle of this fight, telling you that you still need shards.
We need 2 more crystal shards.
Yeah, I'm a little busy here, Claudia. Thanks.
It's not her fault. She's also blind.
Well, nice of that other greater lycanthrope for trying to censor that first half of the finishing move. I guess he was protecting his other buddy's dignity.
Okay, you don't need to see this.
We've seen that animation already. I'm just gonna beat this guy normally.
Credit where credit is due. The AI backing off is a nice touch. Other games may not have done that.
All right, so I'm gonna get another one. This is the circular chain. It's a great, a really great area move that upgrades the effect, the area of effect of your area attacks considerably.
Wow.
It doesn't do much damage, but it hits in a wide area.
I do enjoy a game with nice, visceral, weighty, meaty combat to it.
Yeah, even on the stuff that doesn't do that much damage, relatively speaking.
Excellent. Just one more.
Remember, we need one more crystal shard.
Gabriel, we need one more crystal shard.
And if you do use the crystal shard, it's gone. You have to go collect it again.
Ow!
Here it is. We basically summoned that titty demon from before. It's it's this game's equivalent of like Hydro Storm that Richter has in Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood. It's a massive area of effect attack that will kill everything.
Gotcha.
And it's actually the one. It is the one thing that we need for in order to complete the trial for the Chapter 1 boss that we weren't able to do before. If you remember, we skipped that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because we need the Dark Crystal in order to do a large amount of damage instantly. Because that trial is a speed run.
Come on, buddy. Just go down.
I also realized I haven't actually recorded yet the dialogue that Claudia has if you waste the Dark Crystal, which is actually kind of funny. She chides you out for being an idiot. It's something the equivalent of like, what the hell are you doing? Now you have to go back and collect this all over again, you asshole. So there definitely is some sort of change to the big troll's pattern when his eyes start to glow red. I haven't quite figured out what it is. I think it's that he becomes less defensive and starts attacking more and starts charging, but I don't know for sure.
Is that a health trigger? It's when he's down in hit points, right?
Yeah, it's like a second phase.
Come on, Hulk, just smash it. I swear if you get through this door and there's another one of those pillars.
No, the game's not that cool.
It's not yet.
So, how was your day? And then embryo comes out of nowhere, you have to start collecting gems. So there's a puzzle to be solved in this next room, and the first step for it may seem a little counterintuitive, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it in a second.
Behind that big door, the Titan awaits you.
Okay, so I got statues holding mirrors.
Okay, which Titan though? Are we talking about Wycheck or Dyson? So here's the hint scroll for this. It's one of the most pointless hint scrolls in the game because it's a really easy light puzzle once you figure it out.
However, I cannot find the correct way to do such a thing.
Well, the first step is probably the hardest. And that is, you have to actually remove the Dark Crystal from this statue and put it into the statue that's furthest from the door. Over here. And once you do that, it becomes really easy.
I think these statues can move.
Now, if it was me, I would presume that doing that would close the door.
Well, I mean, the door had already like moved out of the way, I guess, but so I was trying to be really cool and set it up so that it would instantly turn and open the door right away, but I forgot that it's not about where the lenses face, it's about where the statues face, and I didn't line it up properly. Oops.
Oh.
Hey, it's that stock sound again.
Puzzle solved.
Good work, Gabriel.
And if we meet this Titan, you have to tell him it was a lateral. Otherwise, he will get very angry.
I can't help but notice that consumed our Dark Crystal.
Yes, it did. But we will be able to get more Dark Crystals later. So, next update, we are going to be fighting 2 boss fights in a row. And only one of them is a Titan.
Sweat session. Yes.
I'm actually really looking forward to this next update. It's going to be really cool.
Deep and meaningful combat.